It was an ordinary day when things began to change. A young man, Mark, was sitting in his apartment staring out of the window, lost in thought. The world outside seemed so quiet, peaceful even, as the city bustled with its usual activity. But inside, Mark's thoughts were anything but peaceful. His mind wandered to work, to his family, and to the strange feeling he had lately that something was off. Something was coming. He didn't know what, but he could feel it in his bones. As he shifted in his seat and reached for his cup of coffee, a sudden noise broke his concentration. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make him pause. A strange sound, almost like a whisper, echoed through the room. He turned around quickly, his heart racing. The air felt heavier, colder. Then, he saw her. She stood in the doorway, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light. At first, Mark thought she was just a trick of his mind, a figment of his imagination. But no, she was real. Very real. The woman, or was she a woman? Mark couldn't quite tell, was unlike anyone he had ever seen before. Her skin was a smooth, glowing shade of blue, and her eyes shone brightly, reflecting the soft light of the room. Her hair flowed like silver silk, shimmering and almost alive. She wore a tight-fitting black suit that seemed to blend with the shadows around her, highlighting her otherworldly presence. Mark's breath caught in his throat as she took a slow step forward. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for a human being. Every motion was fluid, deliberate, and almost hypnotic. Mark wanted to speak, to ask her who she was, but his words stuck in his throat. He was frozen, unsure whether this was some kind of dream or reality. The woman stepped closer, her gaze never leaving him. She studied him with a kind of curiosity that made Mark feel uneasy. There was something deep in her eyes, something ancient and wise, yet there was also an unsettling hunger in her gaze. It was as if she was looking at him like he was some kind of mystery she needed to solve. Without a word, she extended her hand toward him. Mark flinched instinctively, but he didn't move away. He couldn't. Something about her presence was magnetic. It pulled him in, forcing him to look at her, to take in every detail. She was not just beautiful, she was stunning in a way that was beyond human comprehension. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, almost melodic, but there was an intensity behind it that made Mark's heart race. "You mean human males have milk too?" she asked, her head tilting slightly as she studied him. Mark blinked, taken aback by the question. His mind couldn't process what she was saying. "What?" he stammered, completely confused. "Milk? What do you mean?" She stepped closer, her hand still outstretched, and there was a strange intensity in her eyes. "I've read about humans," she said slowly, her voice tinged with both curiosity and confusion. "But I didn't know you were capable of producing milk like the females." She paused, as if trying to understand the concept. "Is it possible? Are you males? Like the females in this way?" Mark's mind raced. He had no idea how to respond. Milk? Was she talking about human biology? But how did she know that humans even produced milk? And why was she asking him, of all people, before he could gather his thoughts? She moved even closer, now standing beside him. Her presence was overwhelming, and Mark could feel his heartbeat quicken. The alien girl, he wasn't sure what else to call her, was examining him with an intensity that made him feel as though she could see straight through him. Her fingers gently grazed his arm, sending an unexpected shiver down his spine. I don't know what you're talking about," Mark stuttered, his mind still struggling to catch up with what was happening. He had to be dreaming. This couldn't be real. But everything felt so real, from the cool touch of her fingers to the way his pulse raced uncontrollably. She wasn't just some dream. She was real. And she wanted something from him. Her gaze softened, but only slightly. "You are human," she said with a small nod, as if confirming something she had already suspected. "I need your help. My people are dying, and you may hold the answer." The words hung in the air between them like a heavy cloud. Mark didn't know what to say. Dying people? Help? His thoughts were spinning, and the more he tried to understand, the more confused he became. Why would she come to him? Why him, of all people? The alien girl continued, her voice growing softer. My kind. We are not like you. We need something from humans. Something I don't fully understand yet. But I believe you can help us. Mark's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know what was going on, but he couldn't deny the strange pull she had on him. He wasn't sure if he should be terrified or fascinated. Her presence was both terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time. I don't know what you want from me, he finally said, his voice shaking, but I can't just help without understanding what's happening. The alien girl stared at him for a long moment. She didn't speak, but the silence between them felt thick, almost suffocating. Then, slowly, she nodded. You will, she said softly. You will understand soon. The room seemed to grow colder as she stepped back, giving him space. But Mark couldn't shake the feeling that something important was happening, something that would change his life forever. And he wasn't sure if he was ready for it. But there was no turning back now. The strange girl from another world had come, and she had set things in motion. Whatever came next, he knew one thing for sure. His life would never be the same again. Mark could hardly believe what had just happened. He sat there in his apartment trying to process everything that had just unfolded. The girl, no, the alien, had just stepped into his life in a way he could never have imagined. Her strange question about human males and milk kept echoing in his mind. What did she mean by that? Was it some kind of cultural misunderstanding, or was she truly asking something important? His fingers trembled as he took a sip of his now cold coffee. The taste was bitter, much like the overwhelming confusion swirling inside him. The apartment, once a place of comfort, now felt alien. It felt cold, as if something had shifted in the air around him, something he couldn't quite grasp. The alien girl, who had yet to tell him her name, was sitting across from him on the small couch. Her body language was strangely open, yet there was an air of unease about her. She was watching him intently, like she was studying every move he made, every flicker of emotion on his face. Mark couldn't take it anymore. He had to ask. He had to know more. Who are you? He finally asked, his voice unsteady. The alien girl didn't answer immediately. Instead, she tilted her head, considering the question, as though trying to find the right words. Her glowing blue skin seemed to shimmer in the dim light of the room, and her silver hair, which cascaded down her back, seemed almost ethereal. I am from a planet far from here, she said softly, her voice a gentle melody. My people. We are not like humans. We do not age in the same way. We do not need the same things to survive. But we are dying. My kind is dying. Mark's heart skipped a beat. Dying? He repeated, struggling to understand. What do you mean? Why are you here? The alien girl's gaze grew distant, as if she was remembering something painful. Our species cannot reproduce the way humans do. We have tried for centuries to find a solution, but nothing works. Our biological systems are too different. That's why I'm here, she continued, her voice quiet, almost apologetic. We need something from humans, something unique to your species. Something you have, but we do not. Mark leaned forward, his curiosity overwhelming his confusion. What is it? What do you need from us? The alien girl looked directly into his eyes, her gaze piercing. Human males possess a biological trait that is essential to our survival, she said, her words measured and deliberate. It's something I can't fully explain yet. But you, Mark, she added, her eyes locking onto his with a strange intensity. You might be the key. Mark's heart raced. She knew his name. But how? He hadn't told her anything about himself. Her knowledge of him was unsettling, but he couldn't pull himself away from her gaze. Why me? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why me of all people? The alien girl took a deep breath. I have traveled across many worlds, searching for someone like you. There is something different about you, Mark. Something that the others lack. Mark swallowed hard, his mind racing with 1,000 questions. But before he could speak, she continued. We thought it was only the females of your species that had the potential to save us. But I've learned that the males, they have something far more valuable than we realized. Mark shook his head in disbelief. This doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? Milk? You're telling me that the answer to saving your people is something as ridiculous as milk? The alien girl's eyes softened and she reached across the table, her hand gently touching his. Mark recoiled slightly at the unexpected contact, but she didn't pull away. Her touch was surprisingly warm, and for a moment, he felt a strange sense of comfort. It's not just milk, she said quietly. It's a process, something deeply connected to your biology. It's how your bodies are able to create life, to nourish and sustain it. Our kind lost the ability to do this long ago, and without it, we cannot survive. We need this process, but it is not something we can replicate on our own. Mark stared at her, his mind still struggling to grasp everything she was saying. You want my milk? He asked, feeling a mix of disbelief and confusion. It felt absurd, and yet the look in her eyes told him that she wasn't joking. The alien girl nodded solemnly. Yes, in a way, but it's not just the milk itself. It's how your bodies produce it, the process, the chemicals, the biology behind it. We need that to survive. Mark felt a wave of nausea rise in his stomach. This was too much. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. An alien girl from another planet sitting in his apartment asking him for something he couldn't even understand. But, why me? He asked again, his voice trembling. Why is it so important that you get it from me? The alien girl's gaze softened again. Because, Mark, I believe you are special. You have something the others don't. Your biology is different. It's the key to saving my people. Mark sat back, his mind spinning. And if I don't help you? The alien girl hesitated, her eyes filling with sadness. Then my people will continue to die. We've already lost so many, I don't know how much longer we have. The weight of her words settled in the room like a thick fog. Mark didn't know what to say. On one hand, he wanted to help her, to save her people. But on the other, he had no idea what he was really getting into. This was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The alien girl stood up, her face serious. I know this is hard to understand, she said, but you must trust me. I'm not asking for this lightly. My people's survival depends on you. Mark looked at her, his mind racing. Was he ready for this? Could he trust her? He didn't know. But one thing was clear. His life would never be the same again. Mark sat there, his hands shaking as he tried to make sense of the situation. The alien girl, who still hadn't given him her name, had just dropped a bombshell. His mind swirled with questions, each more confusing than the last. She was asking for something he didn't understand, something so bizarre it felt like the wildest dream. She wanted something from him. She wanted his milk, but not just that. It was his biology, his process. And the more she spoke, the more urgent it seemed. Her people were dying, and she was asking for his help in some kind of alien ritual or scientific process that Mark couldn't even begin to comprehend. For a moment, silence hung thick in the air, broken only by the sound of Mark's heart pounding in his chest. His mind raced with a dozen thoughts, but none of them seemed to lead anywhere sensible. He stared at the alien girl across the room, still glowing faintly in the low light. Her eyes locked on him with that same intensity. You're not making any sense, Mark finally blurted out. His voice was shaky, his disbelief making his words feel thick. You can't seriously expect me to just give you what you want. This is insane. The alien girl didn't flinch. Her expression remained steady, though there was a flicker of sadness in her eyes. She didn't seem angry or upset, but instead almost resigned. I understand that you don't understand, Mark, she said, her voice soft and almost apologetic. But you must know that this is the only way. The only chance my people have left. Mark's throat tightened. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had always been skeptical of anything outside the realm of human understanding. Aliens, other planets, anything that wasn't human. He had always dismissed it as fantasy. But here she was, sitting in his apartment, speaking like the fate of an entire species rested on his willingness to participate in some alien ritual he didn't understand. This process you're talking about, Mark started, trying to get his head around the idea. What is it exactly? What are you really asking of me? The alien girl leaned forward, her shimmering eyes never leaving his face. It's not just the milk, she said slowly, as though measuring her words carefully. It's the way humans are able to create life, the way your bodies nurture it. My species, we lost the ability to do that long ago. Mark shook his head, frustration growing inside him. Okay, but that still doesn't explain why you need me. Why me? There are millions of men on Earth. Why is it so crucial that you come to me for this? The girl hesitated, her gaze drifting to the floor for a brief moment. When she met his eyes again, there was an intensity to her look that sent a shiver down his spine. You are different, she said simply, as if that explained everything. Your biology, it's unique. I don't know how or why, but there's something about you, Mark. Something that makes you the one we've been searching for. Mark swallowed hard, his mind struggling to process her words. I don't get it, he said, shaking his head. What do you mean by different? I'm just a regular guy. Nothing special about me. The alien girl's expression softened, and for the first time, Mark saw something like vulnerability in her eyes. You don't see it, do you? She asked quietly. You're not just another human. There's something in your blood, something that has the potential to save us. Mark stood up suddenly, pacing around the room as his mind tried to catch up with the conversation. The idea that he was somehow special, that his body could save an entire alien race, seemed absurd. Yet the way she spoke, so sure of herself, so confident that he was the key, made him pause. He didn't know if he could believe her, but he didn't know how to dismiss her either. Why now? Mark asked, stopping in his tracks to face her. Why come to me? Why not go to the scientists, the doctors, the people who know about biology? Why me? The alien girl sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly. She stood up and walked over to the window, her gaze drifting outside to the city lights below. Mark watched her, unsure of what to expect next. My kind. We've tried everything, she said softly, her voice tinged with sorrow. We tried searching for a cure, a solution, using our own biology. We've sent countless expeditions, studied hundreds of species, even experimented with Earth's flora and fauna, but nothing worked. Until we discovered humans. Your species has a unique ability, something we cannot replicate. And within that, we believe you hold the key to saving us. Mark's heart was heavy with confusion and disbelief, but the sincerity in her voice was impossible to ignore. She wasn't trying to deceive him. She wasn't pretending to be something she wasn't. She genuinely believed what she was saying. Please, Mark, she continued, turning back to face him. I know this is hard to believe, but you must understand, we're running out of time. My people's survival depends on your willingness to trust me. Mark's mind was spinning. Everything about this situation was so far beyond what he could ever have imagined. The idea that his biology, something so mundane to him, could be the key to saving an entire species was impossible to wrap his head around. But the look in her eyes, the desperation in her voice made it hard to dismiss her. She was pleading with him, not as an alien, but as someone in need of help. Why me? He asked again, his voice quieter now, a hint of curiosity creeping in. What makes me so different? The alien girl took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. Because I believe in you, your biology, your body. It's exactly what we need. You are the last hope we have, Mark. I know this is hard, but you must help us. Mark stood still, his thoughts racing as he tried to make sense of everything. He didn't have the answers. He didn't even understand what was being asked of him. But one thing was clear. He was involved in something far bigger than himself now, and there was no turning back. With a heavy sigh, he nodded. "I'll help you," he said quietly, though uncertainty lingered in his voice. "But I still don't understand everything. I need you to explain more. I need to know what I'm getting myself into." The alien girl smiled faintly, relief washing over her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll explain everything, but first we need to begin." Mark took a deep breath. This wasn't the world he knew. This wasn't the life he had planned. But somehow, he felt like this was the beginning of something he couldn't escape. And deep down, part of him wondered if he was meant to be a part of it all along. Mark felt like he was drowning. The more he learned about the alien girl's plight, the more overwhelmed he became. Each moment with her felt like he was falling deeper into a world he didn't understand, a world that didn't make sense. His mind raced as he tried to piece together the strange puzzle she had presented to him. There was no easy answer to any of it. But despite all the confusion and fear, he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't walk away. Not now. The alien girl, whose name he realized he still didn't know, had agreed to explain everything, but not yet. She had insisted they first take a journey to somewhere Mark wasn't sure he was ready to go. The urgency in her voice had been clear. She was running out of time, and whatever they were about to do, it had to happen soon. "You need to trust me," she had said earlier, her voice low but firm. "We don't have the luxury of time. Every minute we waste brings us closer to losing everything." Mark had agreed, even though his mind was still a whirlwind of doubt and disbelief. He didn't know where they were going or what would happen next. All he knew was that he was tangled in something bigger than himself, and walking away wasn't an option anymore. He sat now in her strange, high-tech transport, the walls around him smooth and metallic, gleaming under the soft lighting. He couldn't help but marvel at the technology. The ship, if that's what it was, felt like it was made for something beyond human understanding. The alien girl sat next to him, her eyes fixed ahead, her expression unreadable. The silence between them stretched thick and uncomfortable as they traveled across a vast and unknown landscape. Mark had never been on a plane, let alone a spacecraft. The sheer magnitude of what he was experiencing was enough to make him feel like a small speck in the universe. But every time he looked at the girl beside him, his unease grew. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "We're almost there," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. Mark nodded, his throat dry. "Where are we going?" he asked, trying to keep the fear out of his voice. The girl turned to him, her face softening just a little. "To the place where everything began, where we first discovered what we were looking for. It's where we learned what we needed." Mark furrowed his brow, trying to understand. "What do you mean? What did you find?" Her eyes glinted, a flicker of something dark passing through them. "We thought we had all the answers. But what we found..." She paused, as if the weight of her words was too much to bear. "What we found is not what we expected." A shiver ran down Mark's spine. He wasn't sure whether it was the words or the way she said them, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever truth she was about to reveal, it wasn't going to be easy to hear. The transport shifted and Mark felt the ground beneath him stabilize. They had arrived. The alien girl stood, her movements graceful and fluid as always, and led him out of the ship. Mark followed, his legs unsteady as he stepped into what looked like a barren landscape. The ground was cracked, dry, and desolate, and the sky overhead was dark with swirling clouds, casting an ominous shadow over the area. It looked like the kind of place where nothing could survive. "This is where it all started," she said, her voice quiet, almost reverent. She stopped in front of a large metallic structure half buried in the ground. It looked ancient, weathered by time, yet still standing strong. "This is where we first discovered what we needed." Mark stepped forward, his curiosity piqued. "What is this place?" The alien girl turned to him, her expression serious. It's a research facility, one of the many our people have sent out into the universe. We've been searching for answers, trying to find a way to save ourselves. But the discovery we made here, it wasn't what we hoped for. She gestured to the structure, and Mark could see faint traces of alien writing on the walls, faded with age. The symbols were unlike anything he'd ever seen before, too complex for him to even try to understand. "What did you find?" Mark asked, his voice barely a whisper. The weight of the moment hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The alien girl turned toward him, her eyes locking with his. "We found a truth that we were not prepared to face," she said, her voice cold now, as if the very memory of it sent a chill through her. "What we discovered was that we were too late. The process we needed. It's irreversible." Mark felt his breath catch in his throat. "What do you mean? Irreversible? What happened here?" The alien girl lowered her gaze, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "Our species, Mark. We were once capable of reproducing, of creating life, but we lost that ability long ago during a war that ravaged our homeworld. We thought we could fix it, that we could find a way to restore what was lost. But what we found here, the truth we uncovered, was that it's too late. Our species is dying, and no amount of searching will change that." Mark's mind reeled. He couldn't process what she was saying. "So, you're saying it's all over? There's nothing you can do?" The alien girl nodded, her face hardening. "There is one way to save us," she said, her voice unwavering now. "But it requires something from you. Something you've already been asked for." Mark's stomach twisted. "My biology," he whispered. The girl's gaze never left him. "Yes, your biology is the last hope we have. Without it, my people will cease to exist. But even if you help us, it may not be enough. We don't know if it will work, but it's our only chance." The silence that followed her words was deafening. Mark stood there, his mind struggling to come to terms with the gravity of the situation. His body, his biology, had become the key to an alien race's survival. The thought was so overwhelming, so impossible, that he couldn't quite believe it. But the truth was clear. They were running out of options, and he was their only hope. The weight of it all pressed down on him, suffocating him. Mark didn't know what to do. But he knew one thing. If he refused, everything would be lost. Not just for her, but for the entire species. "Tell me what I need to do," Mark said, his voice steady now, as he made the choice to step into a future he hadn't asked for. The alien girl met his gaze, and for the first time, Mark saw something, like gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're giving us a chance to survive." But as Mark looked at the crumbling structure behind her, a dark thought lingered in his mind. Could he really save them? Or was he just delaying the inevitable? The air inside the alien ship was thin, colder than Mark had expected. He couldn't stop the chill that crept up his spine as he sat quietly on the smooth, metallic bench, staring out the small observation window. The alien girl, who still hadn't told him her name, sat across from him, her eyes lost in thought. Her calm demeanor seemed at odds with the chaos Mark felt inside. Every question, every doubt he'd had about this entire ordeal swirled in his head, and now more than ever he was unsure of what he had gotten himself into. The girl had asked him to trust her, and he had to a degree. He had followed her to this distant research facility, where the answers had been more horrifying than anything he could have imagined. The irreversible condition of her people, the realization that his own biology might be the only thing that could save them. He had agreed to help, despite all the confusion, despite the fear. He had made the decision in that barren, dark landscape, where the research facility stood as a reminder of their lost hope. But now, after everything they had shared, a gnawing feeling crept inside him. Something was off. The more he thought about it, the more something didn't add up. Her explanations, though urgent, felt incomplete. The pieces didn't quite fit. She had said she needed him. She had said his biology was essential for her species' survival. But now with each passing moment, he felt like he was being drawn deeper into something he couldn't control. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," Mark murmured, almost to himself. He had been wrestling with the thought for hours, and finally the words slipped out. He wasn't sure if he meant them, but they had been building up inside him, gnawing at him. The alien girl's sharp eyes snapped toward him, catching him off guard. For a split second, he thought he saw something like concern in them, but it was gone almost instantly. "What do you mean?" she asked quietly, her voice almost too calm. Mark didn't look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the stars outside, his heart racing. "I don't know. There's just something about all of this that doesn't sit right with me. I agreed to help, but it feels like there's more to this than you're telling me." The girl remained silent for a long time, her gaze steady. She seemed to be considering his words, weighing them as though trying to decide whether to reveal the truth or to protect him from it. Finally, she spoke. "You're right, Mark. There is more, but I didn't want to burden you with it." Mark's heart skipped a beat. He turned to face her, confusion flooding his thoughts. "What do you mean? What aren't you telling me?" She leaned forward, her expression hardening, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You were never meant to just help us, Mark. You were chosen for a reason, an exact reason." Mark's pulse quickened. "Chosen? By who? What do you mean?" Her lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. "You thought you were here because of your biology, didn't you? That your body, your essence, was the key to saving us." Mark opened his mouth to respond, but she held up a hand, cutting him off. "Let me finish," she said. "You are more than just a tool for survival. You are part of something much bigger, something far darker. Your DNA, your biology. It's not just an answer to our problem. It's the key to something else. Entirely. You've been chosen, Mark, because your body holds the key to a power we've been searching for." Mark was still processing what she had said, his mind reeling. "A power?" he asked, struggling to understand. "What power? Why? Is my biology so important?" She stood up, her movements deliberate, and approached him slowly. "Not all humans have this. You are special, Mark. The way your body produces milk, the way your cells react, it's not just an evolutionary trait. It's something we've been searching for across multiple species for years, and now we know why." Mark's confusion turned to anger. "Are you telling me that this whole thing, everything you've said about needing my help to save your people, is a lie? What the hell is going on here?" The alien girl stepped back, as if preparing herself for the confrontation. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried a weight that shook Mark to his core. "I never lied. Your help is needed. But the truth is, we've been manipulating you from the start. You were never just a helper. You were always part of the plan to create something powerful. Something that could ensure our species would never be weak again." Mark's breath caught in his throat. "Manipulating me," he repeated, barely able to process what he was hearing. "What the hell do you mean?" She didn't respond right. Away, her eyes searching his face for something. Understanding, perhaps, or maybe remorse. Finally, she spoke. "We didn't choose you at random, Mark. We have been watching humans for centuries, studying their biology, their evolution. You were selected because of your unique genetic structure. You're the key to something beyond survival. You're the key to a new future, one where we control the fate of our species, using the very essence of your biology." Mark felt the floor beneath him tilt. His vision swam as the truth, ugly and raw, began to sink in. He had been part of a scheme all along. His biology wasn't just important. It was the very foundation of a new weapon, a new power that the alien race intended to control. But why him? Why did they need him? Suddenly, his mind flashed back to the moment when she had asked about his biology, about his ability to produce milk. That had been the first clue, the first hint that something wasn't right. But he had been too trusting, too desperate to help to see it. Now, as the full weight of her words crashed down on him, he realized how foolish he had been to believe her without questioning. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Mark asked, his voice strained. Why? Didn't you just say what you needed from the start? Her expression softened, and for a moment she almost looked human, vulnerable. Because I thought you would refuse. I thought you would be like all the others, too afraid of the truth. I needed you to believe in the cause, to believe in me. But now you know. And the truth is, we're beyond saving unless you give us what we want. Mark stood up abruptly, feeling the sudden rush of anger and betrayal. So that's it? You've been using me this whole time? I never wanted to deceive you, she said quietly. But in the end, your body holds the power we need, the power to change everything. Mark's heart raced, his mind torn between disbelief and rage. He had been used, manipulated, a pawn in a game he had no part in. And now, standing before him was the girl he had trusted, the alien who had promised him answers, but had hidden the truth all along. He wanted to run, to escape. But part of him still felt connected to her. He had promised to help her, but now, he didn't know if he could trust a single word she said. Tell me what you want from me, Mark said through gritted teeth, his voice cold with resolve. The alien girl looked at him, her expression unreadable. You will help us, Mark, whether you like it or not. We're beyond the point of no return. The finality in her voice sent a shiver down his spine. The game had changed, and now there was no turning back. The silence between Mark and the alien girl stretched like a taut wire, the tension palpable. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed in that moment. The truth had shattered the fragile trust he had placed in her. She had been lying all along, using him as a tool, a weapon. But it wasn't just betrayal he felt. It was a sense of deep foreboding, like something far darker was lurking beneath the surface of everything she had told him. Her people were desperate, yes, but at what cost? The alien girl, who in the quiet moments had appeared vulnerable and unsure, was now different. There was a coldness to her, a certain determination in her eyes that spoke of an overwhelming drive to succeed no matter what. And now Mark realized the full weight of what he had agreed to. His body was not just the key to saving her species. It was the foundation of something far more dangerous. She stood tall, her posture rigid with resolve. The ship hummed around them, its strange alien technology thrumming with an intensity Mark hadn't noticed before. Everything in the vessel seemed to pulse with energy, as if it was alive, its very being tied to a future that Mark had no part in. Mark, you're not just helping us survive, she said, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of finality. You're helping us take control. We cannot remain in the shadows forever. The power you carry inside you will give us what we need to rise again, to reshape the future. Mark swallowed, his mouth dry. The idea of reshaping the future, that had sounded noble at first. But now, it felt more like a sinister ambition, one that threatened to consume everything in its path. I don't want to be a part of this, Mark said, his voice firm, but doubt clouded his thoughts. I didn't sign up for control, for manipulation. You used me, and now you expect me to just accept it? The alien girl didn't flinch. She looked at him with the same calm intensity she had maintained since their first meeting, but this time there was something different in her gaze. Something colder. You don't have a choice, Mark, she replied, her voice barely a whisper, but carrying the weight of a final decree. You've already agreed. Whether you like it or not, your biology is the key to everything. You are part of this. Whether you accept it or fight it, there is no turning back. Mark's chest tightened, his mind racing. He had been so caught up in the idea of helping, in the notion that he could do something good, something that would make a difference. But now, standing in front of him was a being who saw him not as a savior, but as a stepping stone, an obstacle, to overcome in their quest for dominance. This wasn't about survival anymore. This was about power, and power, Mark realized, came at a terrifying price. For the first time, Mark saw the truth in her eyes, the same cold ambition that had driven civilizations to conquer and destroy. She wasn't trying to save her people. She was trying to control them, to shape them into something they weren't. and he was going to be the instrument of that change. He stepped back, his hands trembling slightly. You never told me the full story. You never told me that you were planning something like this. That I was just a tool, just a part of a bigger picture. The alien girl didn't speak immediately. Instead, she turned toward the control panel at the front of the ship, her hands moving with practiced precision across the holographic interface. A series of symbols flashed in front of her, and the ship responded, humming more intensely as it shifted course. Mark realized that they were leaving the planet behind, leaving everything he knew far below them. We need to go somewhere, she said, without looking back at him. Somewhere safe. The changes need to begin there. We'll start the process soon. Mark's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't allow her and her people to use him like this, to reshape the world, in their image. But what could he do? He was trapped. Trapped in a world that wasn't his own. Caught in a conflict that had never been his to begin with. I won't help you, Mark said finally, his voice cold with resolve. I'm not a part of this. I won't be your weapon. The alien girl turned slowly, her eyes narrowing as she regarded him. There was a flash of something dark and dangerous in her gaze. For a moment she almost looked disappointed. But then the coldness returned. You don't understand, do you? She said, her voice even and calm. You never had a choice. The moment you agreed to help, you sealed your fate. The power inside you is too valuable. You think you can just walk away from this? That would be a mistake, Mark. A mistake that would cost you everything. Mark's blood ran cold. He realized with a shock that she wasn't just talking about his role in her plan. She was talking about his life. They had already used him, manipulated him, and now they were going to take what they needed. But if he refused, what then? Would they kill him? Use him until he was no longer useful? He had no way of knowing. The only thing he was certain of now was that he was a pawn in a game much bigger than he had ever imagined. I can still stop this, Mark muttered. More, to himself than to her, I have to. The alien girl didn't respond. She merely turned back to the controls, her fingers moving fluidly across the interface. The ship began to accelerate, the stars outside stretching into streaks of light as they jumped into faster-than-light travel. Mark felt a knot tighten in his chest. He had to stop them. He had to find a way to break free from this nightmare before it consumed everything he had ever known. But as the ship hurtled through the void, Mark realized that the real fight had only just begun. The stakes were higher than ever, and the consequences of failure were unimaginable. He wasn't just fighting for his life anymore. He was fighting for the future of an entire species. But could he stop the alien girl and her people before they destroyed everything? Would he be able to stop a force more powerful than anything he could comprehend? The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Mark was no longer just a pawn. He was part of a battle that would determine the fate of two worlds, and he wasn't ready to lose yet. The cold hum of the ship was constant, almost soothing in its regularity. Yet for Mark, it did nothing to calm the storm of confusion and fear that raged inside him. He was trapped in a battle far beyond his comprehension, surrounded by alien technology, alien intentions, and an alien girl who had once seemed like an ally but had now become his greatest adversary. Mark sat in the corner of the ship, his mind replaying everything that had happened since the moment he had first met her. The alien girl who had promised him answers, who had whispered of a dying species and a desperate need for his help. But now he realized the truth. She hadn't been seeking help. She had been seeking a weapon, a key to an unimaginable power, and he had been the one to unlock it. He glanced up at the girl now, who stood at the front of the ship, staring out into the void of space, her posture regal, almost commanding. Her alien features, glowing faintly in the dim light, made her look both beautiful and terrifying. But there was something more behind her gaze now, something darker, more calculating. She turned and caught Mark's eyes, her face unreadable. "You're still struggling with the truth, aren't you?" she asked, her voice soft yet sharp. Mark didn't reply immediately. He had no answers. He had no idea how he could stop this. how he could undo the trap she had set for him. But he wasn't ready to give up just yet. He couldn't be. He couldn't let everything he knew fall into the hands of someone like her. He had to try. Why? Mark asked finally, his voice hoarse, the words barely escaping his lips. Why did you have to lie to me? Why did you hide the truth? Why didn't you tell me what you were really after? The alien girl stepped closer, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she were considering his question. Because, Mark, I knew you wouldn't understand. You were never meant to understand. You were always a part of something bigger, something beyond your limited human perspective. Mark's chest tightened, but he stood and faced her, his fists clenched at his sides. No, he said, his voice firm. You were wrong to use me like this. You can't just bend me to your will. You think you have control, but you don't. I won't let you destroy everything. She stared at him, and for a moment Mark thought he saw a flicker of something, doubt perhaps, pass across her face. It was gone before he could fully grasp it, but it was enough to make him wonder. Was there still some shred of humanity left in her? Or was she truly the cold, calculating creature she appeared to be? You don't understand, Mark, she said, her voice a mix of frustration and pity. My people are dying. We are not like you. We don't have the luxury of making mistakes. We don't have time for second chances. You think I wanted to use you? You think I wanted to betray you? No. But I had no choice. Mark's heart sank, but he refused to let the sympathy she seemed to be trying to elicit affect him. You had a choice, he shot back. You could have been honest. You could have told me everything from the beginning. Instead, you used me. You manipulated me. She closed her eyes briefly, as if weighing her next words carefully. I did what I had to do. If you knew the truth, you would have never agreed to help us. You would have never understood. But you're wrong about one thing, Mark. I didn't want to betray you. I never wanted this to happen. But we don't have the luxury of choices anymore. You are part of this. Whether you like it or not, Mark shook his head. He didn't know what she was talking about, what had driven her people to this point. But what he did know was that he couldn't be a part of whatever dark future she was planning. He wouldn't allow it. We can stop this, Mark said, his voice low but full of conviction. It's not too late. We can find another way. We don't have to go down this path. The alien girl took a deep breath, and for the first time, Mark noticed the weariness in her eyes. It wasn't much. Just a subtle shift in her expression, but it was there. You don't understand, she repeated softly, almost to herself. This isn't about us anymore. This is about survival. Our species will never be the same again. We cannot afford to fail. Mark's mind spun as he tried to make sense of everything she had said. You're willing to destroy everything to survive? He asked. You're willing to sacrifice everything to have power? Her gaze sharpened. You think I don't understand what's at stake? You think I'm some heartless creature who wants power for the sake of power? She shook her head as if dismissing his words. You don't know what it's like to watch everything you've ever known collapse around you, to feel the ground beneath your feet crumble, knowing there is no way to stop it. Mark stared at her, the weight of her words settling on his shoulders. It wasn't power she was after, not truly. It was survival. But in the pursuit of that survival, she had lost sight of everything else. The cold, calculating ambition that had driven her from the beginning now seemed less like an advantage and more like a dangerous obsession. We don't have to lose ourselves in the process, Mark said quietly, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. There's another way, there has to be. For the first time, the alien girl faltered. She looked at him, really looked at him, and there was something in her eyes, something fragile, the faintest hint of doubt. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough to make Mark's heart race. Could she still be reached? Could she be stopped before it was too late? I don't know if there's another way, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But if there is, I'm willing to find it. For you, for us. Mark didn't know what to say to that. He didn't know if he could trust her or if this was just another part of her manipulation. But something about her words felt different. They felt real. And for the first time, Mark allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance to stop what had already begun. We still have time, Mark said, his resolve hardening. We can figure this out together, but I'm not going to let you sacrifice everything just to survive. We have to find another way. The alien girl didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood there, silent, her gaze locked on his. Then, with a deep sigh, she nodded. Maybe you're right, she said quietly. Maybe there's still hope. But Mark knew the truth. The hope they had was fragile. It was fading with each passing moment, and they were running out of time. The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear. This battle wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about what kind of future they would create, one of destruction or one of redemption, and Mark was determined to fight for the latter no matter what it took.